Oh, baby, the last weekend without the Lions is here.
You are Locked On Lions, your daily Detroit Lions podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's happening, everybody? Matt Derry with you. It is a Friday edition of Locked On Lions right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today is Friday, August 30th, and it's Saturday, August 31st. Labor Day weekend is here. This is the last show we're going to do in the month of August, which means September is next, which means this weekend is the last weekend without NFL football. I know MSU plays tonight. Michigan plays tomorrow. College football is back. My guy, Adam Jackson, the voice of CMU, he's got Chippewa action. All this stuff is going on. That's awesome. All right. Last night, if you stayed up to watch Colorado, that was fun. Always fun to watch Colorado mess around in games and keep the opponents in it. And they're, and the poor coaching. Minnesota missing a field goal at 1 a.m. There's a lot of fun stuff. But the bottom line is this. This is the last weekend before next weekend where the Lions are back. And the Lions are playing the LA Rams. So thanks for making us your first listen, checking us out wherever you get your podcast. Thank you to those of you that subscribe and watch us daily on our Locked On Lions YouTube channel. We thank you for that. Follow us on Twitter at Derry Speaks, at Locked On Lions, and the Matt Derry Facebook fan page as well. Our everydayers, thank you so much for being there with us daily, watching and listening to the show. One of our everydayers, hit us up on our voicemail system, on our SpeakPipe. You can be on the show. We will do our call of the day momentarily here at speakpipe.com/Derry podcast page. Thank you for the chime in today, Keith, and we will hear from him momentarily. A couple of quick things. Mike Sando is going to join us in a few minutes. Mike, of course, from theathletic.com, a top NFL writer. And every year, theathletic.com and Mike used to do this before he was at The Athletic, they put out their quarterback tiers, and it's tradition that Sando does this. And he talks to people around the league. He's got GMs, coaches, front office people that all vote. And Jared Goff cracked the top 10. He was a top 10 quarterback, just right behind Dak Prescott and in front of Jalen Hurts. And Jared Goff was on that level 2 tier. Last year, he was a level 3 quarterback, a third-tier quarterback behind Kirk Cousins. This year, Goff makes that jump. We talked about it a little bit on the show yesterday. I have no issue with it. I think it's perfect. I think it's correct. And Jared Goff is getting his flowers, and he should, because he has had a whale of a time in 3 years with the Lions, every year getting better. And this is what's so exciting. By the way, Brandon Ayuk re-signing with the Niners. Thank God that story is over. I went 2 months of Brandon Ayuk talk. Like this guy was the second coming of Lynn Swann or Justin Jefferson. Thank you. Thank you that that's done. Regardless, I want everybody to remember something. We talked about the roster this week. We talked about the practice squad this week. We talked about all the maneuvering that took place and what about the kicker and what about the backup quarterback. If our biggest issue here in Detroit at the Meyer Performance Center, 222 Rodwood Drive, if our biggest problems are talking about the kicker and the backup quarterback and the number 4 wide receiver, I'll take that, because that means this franchise is in a good place. We're not talking about a problem at left tackle like they are in Pittsburgh. We're not talking about a problem at starting quarterback like they are in Las Vegas. We're not talking about they have no pass rush and no edge rushers like maybe they're talking about in Arizona. Okay. I'm using those as an example, or New Orleans, right? Where's the pass rush going to come from? The Lions are in good shape, folks. They're in great shape. And I want you to all check out the Locked On NFC North preview show, which you can find on my audio feed, Locked On Lions, and also on the Locked On Lions YouTube channel. Just hit videos. You will see the Locked On NFC North preview is now out. Myself, Lauren Cox, Locked On Bears, Touchdown Bears, Luke Braun, Locked On Vikings, and it's moderated by the incomparable, the smarmy, the annoying Peter Bukowski of Locked On Packers. Pete is so butthurt. He can't take the fact that we're good in this town. He can't. Packer fans are so upset that the Lions are good. And quite frankly, I love it. All right. Call of the day. Let's do that first. Then we're going to hear from Mike Sando from The Athletic. We're going to do the call of the day. Again, another one of our listeners from out of town checking in at speakpipe.com/dairy podcast page. Ladies and gentlemen, Keith Williams.
Hey, Matt. How's it going? Name is Keith. I'm down here in Austin, Texas. Been a Lions fan my whole life. Got one burning question. Is it strange that we didn't see any starters at all in preseason? And maybe I'm mistaken, but I'm used to a tune-up game. I'm used to seeing the guys go out there at least once. In this preseason, we didn't put anybody out there, to my recollection, like any starter capable. And I was seeing it around the league also. So I don't know if it was just me, but do you think that's strange also?
Thank you, Keith, for our call of the day. And he asked a very good question. You know, the one guy that I thought played a lot in the preseason that was a starter was Amik Robertson, because I would consider him a guy that's going to be playing a lot and going to get a lot of minutes and a lot of reps and a lot of snaps. Other than that, he's right. I mean, there just weren't a ton of starters out there. Will there be rust in week one against the Rams? I think in the first half there might be. I saw Colin Cowherd today. He did like 5 bold predictions. He has the Rams going to the NFC Championship game. I don't know how bold that is because Matthew Stafford's damn good. Rams drafted very well. They got some injured players back. Their O-line is much better than it was 2 years ago and last year. I think there will be a little bit of rust, but a lot of teams did this, Keith. It wasn't just the Lions. And especially when you lose Penei Sewell in practice to a turned ankle, and you lose last year, you lost Chauncey Gardner-Johnson first day of practice, and then again early in the season. You just don't want to take that chance. And I'm fine with it. I do think there will be a little bit of rust, no question about it, at the start of the first game. But I think once they get into a rhythm, they're going to be okay. Dan Campbell had some pretty hardcore scrimmages. They also had the joint practices with the Giants. So I think they'll be all right. I truly believe that. Look, right now the Lions are pretty darn healthy. Outside of DJ Reader, heading into that Rams game next week, you just don't want to take that chance. And I think eventually you're going to see 18 games in the regular season, and you're going to see 2 preseason games, maybe even 1 with a lot of joint practices. Mike Sando is coming up next. He is from The Athletic. Let's talk some quarterback tiers and find out from Sando. Does he think the Lions are going to the Super Bowl? All of this on a Friday edition of the Locked On Lions. And Locked On Lions are brought to you by our friends at 5 Hour Energy. I am so excited that 5 Hour Energy is with us. Folks, if you're tired after lunch, you're not alone. In fact, research shows that more than 70% of us hit the wall after lunch. Let a 5 Hour Energy shot help you leap over that wall instead of crashing into it. What about watching sports? Grab a 5 Hour Energy shot to stay alert to watch all your favorite games. Or if you stayed up late to see that intense overtime game, take a 5 Hour Energy shot in the morning so you can start your day. It's amazing, right? 5 Hour Energy, the brand, hardworking people like you have trusted for over 20 years. To give them the alert, energized feeling they need to get through a busy, hectic day, you always know where to find a 5 Hour Energy shot right at the cash register at like every convenience store, drugstore, and grocery store nationwide. Stock up on money-saving multi-packs to make sure you never run out of delicious, energizing 5 Hour Energy shots. If you go to 5hourenergy.com, that is the number 5, hourenergy.com, and get some 5 Hour Energy product today, use the promo code LOCKEDONFB, LOCKEDONFB, to receive 20% off your order. This offer is only valid until September 30th on one order and cannot be used with other promotions. The code is not good on subscription orders. Go to 5hourenergy.com today. As promised here on a Friday, Locked On Lions, our buddy Mike Sando, I think one of the best NFL writers out there from theathletic.com. It is tradition to talk to Mike about the quarterback tiers. Those are out at The Athletic, and he joins us today on the program. Hey, Mike.
Good to be here, Matt. How are you?
Good to see you, my man. Doing all right. We're getting right there, man. We're like next week we'll have NFL games. This is crazy.
By the time we get to this point, I can't wait so much for the season because you're just done with all of the narratives and the off-season things have run their course. So you just want to see, don't you? Just want to see if Aaron Rodgers is going to play and see some of these things that we've been wondering about, how new players are going to fit and all of that. I really can't wait.
It's exciting too, obviously, here in Detroit. I want to get to the quarterback tiers, but you and I were talking off air. You were here in June checking some things out. How'd that go?
It went well. Yeah, I had a little session to meet a few people and see the team, and I always like getting there. I love getting out to the teams. And what I do is a little different than I think what most would do when they're making a trip to teams. I'm usually working on projects like this or bigger picture things. I'm not necessarily coming in and drilling down on that specific team. I'm not, hey, how's this guy looking in camp as much. I love the bigger projects and things that have an appeal across teams, and it really makes for good conversations when you come into a team. People don't have their guard up, that sort of a thing, because I'm not pressing them on the stuff that most people would be, trying to find out while you're at Lions camp. So sometimes I'm not the best guy of who, how's that corner situation on that team, because I'm usually working on different types of projects that are a little bit broader themes.
Mike Sando with us from The Athletic. Again, the quarterback tiers article, which every year I look forward to, has come out. Where do you want to start, Mike? I mean, obviously with us, last year you and I, we didn't squabble about it, but we argued about the Jared Goff, Kirk Cousins tier thing. Now Goff is past Kirk Cousins, and he's now on tier 2. So
let's talk about him.
Yeah, the people that you talked to obviously elevated him and helped his case, and obviously it's just his play last year helped it as well, right?
It really did, and I think for guys like Jared Goff, or you mentioned Cousins, they're good quarterbacks, but they're not huge wow factor guys, right? That when teams are playing those quarterbacks, they're like, oh my God, they're not like, oh my gosh. I mean, we're going to have everything perfect and they're going to run for 20 yards, or he's going to throw this amazing rollout and throw it back across the field, Elway style. That's not what you get. What you get is undeniable production. And so when that production accumulates, the respect comes. And when it's consistent over time. So for somebody like Cousins, I think he was playing the best ball of his career last year before he got hurt, and he had stacked some good seasons. And I think Jared Goff is now back into stacking some good seasons. And of course, it helps to have a good team around you for most of these guys. But he's done that enough now that where else would you put him, right? You're not going to put him lower than this. I don't know how much higher you're going to go. We'll see. We'll see this season. Maybe they go win a Super Bowl or something, and he's incredible, in the playoffs, and then he comes up another notch. But I think he's in a good spot there. Cracked the top 10 for the first time. And when you look at who is ahead of him in the tiers, so if he's 10, 9 is Prescott, but 8 Stroud pretty early. But then you're into Rodgers, Stafford, Herbert, Lamar, Josh Allen, Burrow, Mahomes. Okay, there's a handful of those guys who we would all agree. I mean, Jared Goff would probably agree. That are. Probably deserve to be in the top 5 of the league.
When you're doing this and you look at it, what jumped out, I guess, last year that elevated him, do you think? And do you think the people you talk to, what do they have to say?
Yeah, so it's funny. I've got on my screen here, I've got a file of all of the comments I collected on him, and some of those ran in the story. Here's one. Goff's a 2. He's gravitated to that. Last year, maybe I would have given him a 3. I think he's done enough. He's still a guy you got to be able to run the ball. He's in the perfect offense for him. They have a great run-pass balance. If he has to be a pure passer, not as sure he can do that. What that means is, hey, if we just got to throw the ball all the time, that's a very high bar. That's really the tier 1 bar.
Yeah.
That's even why Lamar Jackson's a tick below tier 1 and by some of the voters. So Lamar got like 23 tier 1 or something, and 27 not, because there's still even some question with him as a league MVP. When you really got to sling that thing and the run game dries up, we're behind. Can we just, if we have to drop back, who's more afraid, us or the defense, right? And that's a super high bar. There's only 3 guys in tier 1 that the league at large, a majority thought could do that. So, that's not a huge knock on Goff. That's just why you're a 2 and not a 1, because he can do that some of the time, but you wouldn't feel like you'd want to do that as much as maybe with some of those top guys.
Goff ahead of Hurts and ahead of Purdy. There are plenty that would disagree with you and say, wait a minute, Jalen Hurts, he was hurt last year. He didn't get along with his coach. He's dynamic. Brock Purdy beat Goff in the championship game. You're going to hear that, right, Mike?
Yeah. It's so the difference between Goff being ahead of Hurts, I'm just looking here, is like 4 votes being different, out of 50. So it's super close. I think, Hurts really made a big jump when they went to the Super Bowl and you saw him develop as a passer. Because the reason he was second round pick is people really questioned whether he could be a consistently accurate passer. They knew he could obviously run and have a dual threat component. But people saw growth in Jalen Hurts. And then last year, there was enough, even though they were 10-1 at one point, there were enough chances when he had to throw it and it looked bad. So I think people kind of went, okay, he's not plummeting here. We're not selling all of our Jalen Hurts stock, but it was more of a hold than a buy, right? And so he went down just a few spots at the same time that Jared Goff went up. But I think if you look at the bottom of tier 2 here, you'd be, Goff, Hurts, Purdy, Cousins, Love. You could debate, if a couple of those guys were flipped around, I think you'd anger 5 people over here and make 5 other people happy, and maybe you'd maybe have a distinction without a difference, right?
Tell me about Jordan Love. Moves up to the second tier, moves up 2 tiers. Obviously, he hadn't played until last year anyway. But how much, you mentioned stock buying, how much stock are you buying in Love that we'll see the second half Love? Because Lion fans need to know, because the Packers are right on their heels here. How much are you buying that we'll see more of second half Love as opposed to first half Love?
I would generally buy it, but I think made an impression on me that feels like the league is buying it. Like these guys, the people who vote in these things don't move people around that much from year to year. There's almost a delay sometimes. I want to see it again, right? Now, the reason Love came up 2 tiers is because tier 4 is either not enough information, like an unproven player, or it's a veteran who ideally wouldn't start the whole year, like a Minshew or somebody like that, who's a good backup, maybe a good spot starter, but he's not really your guy. And so sometimes these guys, when they debut in it with a limited number of starts, they're just going to be in tier 4 until there's more of a body of work. So to say he rocketed up 2 tiers is accurate, but it's not like people thought he sucked before and now they think he's good. They just didn't have enough info. Now, it is notable to me to come all the way up into the bottom of tier 2 to get a single tier 1 vote. I mean, that's some people that really liked what they saw. The only real knocks I heard or skepticisms were, there were a couple bad games down the stretch too. Now, don't act like it was just lights out the whole time. They struggled against Tampa Bay, obviously the last playoff game. So, and then another point made was, don't fall into the trap of, hey, Green Bay's found their next guy, because that's what they do, right? Don't give them the benefit of the doubt on Love just because Rodgers worked out following Favre. That's an easy thing to do, to kind of fall into. They have a credibility around there. And so you think you're starting to see it and you just go, yep, that's it. I think it's a little more complicated than that. And it wouldn't be a surprise at all if he had some ups and downs this coming season. I'm sure he will. He's still a young player. But definitely it was an optimistic tone with him. I think you have to give him credit with such a young team around him, young weapons that were a problem for, Aaron Rodgers. The young weapons, I thought he had to get better weapons. Well, now you got a young team growing around Jordan Love, and it looked good. You could really see. So I think it's really interesting. Even myself, I find myself not sure how high to be on the Packers. Like they're kind of a in vogue Super Bowl pick, aren't they? A little bit in the NFC.
Yeah.
Is that too soon? I mean,
you never know in this conference, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. I feel like you got a chance though in the NFC, but the AFC's just got Mahomes is a stopper. You could be a great player. Josh Allen, you could be Joe Burrow, you could be Lamar Jackson. These guys, Aaron Rodgers, they may not even have a chance because you just got to play Mahomes.
Yeah.
You're going to lose like 80% of the time. In the NFC, I think you can see a path. If you're the Lions, you can be, let's see how healthy the 49ers are. All those guys like Kittle and Christian McCaffrey and Debo who've been banged up before, Trent Williams, are they all going to play the whole season? Right, those sorts of things. Green Bay, yeah, a lot of hype, but what have they done? Have they done it yet? Right, you can find a path easier.
Mike Sando with us from theathletic.com. Please subscribe. I do and read Mike's stuff all the time. The Quarterback Tiers article is fantastic. I want to ask him about the Lions and just get some general stuff in as the season is getting ready and the Lions get ready to take on the Rams next Sunday. We'll do that with Mike Sando coming up next. eBay Motors is a proud sponsor of Locked On Lions. Passion, drive, and patience. The formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. We got superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit. Only available to U.S. customers. Longtime NFL writer Mike Sando with us from The Athletic, known best for his quarterback tiers. Check out that article at theathletic.com. All right, Mike, here we go. I mean, Sports Illustrated had him on the cover. They're going to win the Super Bowl. Brad Holmes said yesterday the goal is to win the Super Bowl. No, that's the expectation in Detroit. Do I need to say any more than that?
Yeah, I mean, I know. Is it possible to live up to expectations? Like if the Lions now lose in the NFC Championship game, is it a disappointing season? That's what I feel like with some of these teams.
I know.
You get to a certain level and it's never enough, you know? Like Baltimore's only, like all Lamar Jackson can do is like beat Mahomes or else it doesn't matter. I mean, it's almost unfair. This is hard to go all the way. So I always have a check on the expectations that every year is different. And this offseason felt so great for the Lions. It was like some victory laps on re-signing players. And, we got our guys. And then you get DJ Reader and you load up a corner. I mean, all the boxes are checked. But as they know, I'm sure as Dan Campbell's telling the team, every year's different. You got a target on your back now, right? So you're leaning into being a successful organization now. And with that comes expectations. And how does everybody handle that? I'm sure for somebody like Jared Goff, who's been in this type of situation before, it's easier than somebody who's a young player coming up or from a team that hasn't had as much success. Great position to be in. You don't look at the Lions and see some fatal flaw, right? It looks pretty good. But
It does.
You know, I love the league too, putting with the Rams in the first game. I mean, it's just,
of course.
it's just perfect.
Stafford will get his video this time. He didn't get it last year. Let me ask you this, because you've been around the league and you know. The Lions, all these other teams, the Jordan Love distraction, it got resolved. The 49ers still have distractions. The Cowboys always have distractions. The Eagles, who knows, with Hurts and Sirianni and all this stuff. It's like the Lions, and this is crazy because this has never happened before here. Distraction free. Everybody re-signed. Well, everybody but Lee McNeil, but he's happy. He's fine. And they just are going about their business. How much of that matters in your mind?
I think it's great, but the league is a series of crises for everybody. There will be some crisis. You wait. There'll be 2-3 crises during the season of things that shake your confidence or make you question, or make you readjust your expectations, and you got to roll with them. And that's for every team. So we don't know what it's going to be for the Lions because you're right. The boxes were all checked. There hasn't been some major injury in the offseason. There's not. Everybody's happy. They have to be. They paid everybody. I mean, everybody better be happy, right? I mean, they took care of everybody. So you can't find a thing that you think is going to go wrong, but this league will slap you. This league will have something that happens that all of a sudden you're adjusting. It could be an injury, it could be anything. So
You
it'll
mentioned
happen. It's
before
coming.
about, yeah, for sure. You mentioned before about the offense. Everybody's going to ask about the defense, certainly. The upgrades, you mentioned Reader and stuff. How much better do you think this defense is, at least on paper, especially in that cornerback room?
I think it's a lot better. They took an approach that we've seen like the Chiefs do in recent years, where you're a good team and then you have an Achilles heel somewhere, so you just throw everything at it. Right? We've seen that one year after the Chiefs lost to the Super Bowl to Tampa Bay, it was like an offensive line spending spree, right? They went and got a guard, they got a tackle, and they just threw everything at it. And so I thought that's what I see the Lions really doing. They're saying we got a major issue here. Let's trade for this guy. Let's draft these guys. I still think the DJ Reader signing might be the best addition. Now I know he just came off the PUP, right? Is he going to be fine, ready to go right away, or
I think they're targeting week 2.
okay, week 2? Okay,
Yeah.
so he's I think he is such a good player, and he's had this injury before, I believe. So hopefully, from his standpoint, he can get back to full speed and have a great season and down the stretch, because he's a difference making player. I think he'll be missed, in Cincinnati, and it is a really big addition.
Let's say we're picking the Lions to do it and they get to the Super Bowl. Who's in their way? Obviously, San Francisco and the teams we mentioned, but is there a sleeper in the NFC? Are you high on the Falcons like others are? How do you look at it?
No, I don't see. In fact, let's see here. I have a list. Let me look at this. Okay, I've got a list of the teams here. So as I look at the NFC, yeah, I'm not seeing a lower half team that I feel that way about. I mean, Atlanta's like, you wouldn't be surprised if Atlanta won 11 games or something, but are you rushing to bet on them? I don't know. There's a lot of question marks with some of these teams too.
Yeah.
Even like Philadelphia's has had a lot of stuff going. They could be great, but there just seems like there's always some turmoil there. So not really of the teams that are kind of picked to go second half. Chicago's interesting. I think when you have a highly regarded rookie quarterback coming into a team that's been building for a little while, you have some potential there. I mean, remember when Andrew Luck came into the Colts? They were, I think, immediately like 111 games. So, there's a lot of expectations there. Probably should be tempered with the rookie quarterback, but that could be just an interesting team within the division that could be a thorn in people's side and maybe, could make the playoffs type of a season. And then they know you. What if you were matched up against a team that really knows you? I don't know. How do you feel about, facing teams that know you super well? Sometimes that could be.
I mean, come on, Mike. Last year with Justin Fields, and I'm no fan of Justin Fields, they nearly swept the Lions. They probably should have. So
they, internally they may feel like, hey, all the respect in the world to the Lions, but we're not afraid of them. That could be.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's that way when the team, and you're like, hey, we were right with these guys. And Caleb Williams is I think a different talent than most of the number one quarterbacks taken, and he's one of those guys that can create. So you're in a close game, and then all of a sudden he makes the differentiating play outside of structure, outside the pocket, throws it on a rope 35 yards down to the corner of the end zone, like we saw him kind of doing in the preseason. That's a little bit of an unknown wild card right there in the division that could be an issue sooner than later.
Mike, great to see you. As always, love having you on. Thanks so much. And we will talk during the season. Thank you.
Thank you. Loved coming on.
You got it. There he is, Mike Sando, with us from The Athletic on a Friday edition of Locked On Lions.